Hey, welcome back to Matt again. My name is Rampage and this is gaming news. Do not ask about my hair, I just woke the fuck up and it is about 8:30 in the morning. So, excuse that shit. Didn't even have enough time to put my beanie on because I just saw this article and I had to fucking go through it. But, this article is The Witcher 3 system requirements announced. So, the minimum system requirements, I don't know why they do this, but they go Intel CPU, then Core. Or AMD CPU, Phenom, NVIDIA GPU. It's like, why? It just looks like you're a total noob. I don't know anybody or any listing ever that says Intel CPU, Core i5, blah, 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 blah. It says Intel Core i5. Have the CPU or whatever it is before the fucking name of the product. Anyway, minimum spec. Intel Core i5 2500K at 3.3 GHz, or an AMD Phenom 2 X4 940. I don't exactly know what that CPU is or how it compares to the i5 2500K, which is my CPU. So I'm not too sure about that. Could any of you guys know more about AMD than I do? Because I don't know anything about AMD CPUs or the performance other than the 8350 is like the best one they have right now, and it's not really that good. Please, fill me in because I want to know more about AMD and what, compares in terms of Intel. But anyway, NVIDIA GPU, GeForce GTX 660 or an AMD Radeon HD 7870, 6 gigs of RAM. OS 64-bit Windows 7 or 64-bit Windows 8 or Windows 8.1. DirectX 11 and 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. That is like the most retarded thing ever. Not what I just did, but why are games going up in terms of hard drive space? Like, I don't really give a shit how big the environment is, but I can guarantee most of those textures are not going to be different. So it doesn't really make any sense to me. Most of the time it has something to do with videos as well as audio quality. Just compress it. I live in Australia, mate. It's not good to download 40 gigs per fucking game. Just putting that out there. But I know that I say that every fucking time and you're probably thinking, well, dickhead, just get unlimited internet. I've tried, mate! I can get unlimited internet, right, with TPG for around 60 bucks. I know this has nothing to do with the video, but I'm going to be quick. But I can't get it with a bundle, like the home phone bundle. So it's like, there's no ports left or some bullshit. So whatever the fuck that means. But anyway, recommended system spec. Intel Core i7 3770 at 3.4 GHz, or an AMD FX, this is weird, AMD CPU, AMD FX, 8350, 4 GHz. What the fuck is going on there? NVIDIA GeForce GTX 770, or an AMD Radeon 9 290. RAM, 8 GB. OS, same as before, 64-bit Windows 7 or 64-bit Windows 8 or 8.1. DirectX 11 and 40 gigs of hard drive space. So, what do I think about these system specs? For a game that looks like Witcher 3, I would say that these are reasonable, depending on the performance of the game. Now, I do see these specs as reasonable because it doesn't say that the minimum spec starts with a 770, and then the recommended spec doesn't say anything like a GTX 980 or fucking GTX 780 Ti, like gigahertz edition or some bullshit like that, right? It's not overly ridiculous. As for recommended specs, I don't really know what's going on with the CPUs these days. Like, a lot of games are becoming heavily CPU bound. Like, most games are heavily CPU bound anyway. Whether this will use both all of my 4 cores, which I do have an i5 2500K, I don't know. Whether it will actually use hyperthreading, I don't know. Because most games that I've seen haven't even bothered to use hyperthreading, so I don't know why they chose an i7 for the recommended spec. Maybe it's just like to make them feel better. But other than that, I don't know. Another thing that I would like to point out is that I would like CD Projekt Red. This has nothing to do with the system specs, so if you want to leave, that's fine. But I would like CD Projekt Red to add the options like advanced settings or advanced graphical settings within the game itself. Because if you don't know already, The Witcher 2 had the option, or not really the option, but forced you to launch it through an external launcher, then change the settings in there, then start the game. You know, I think that is a kind of weird way to deal with settings. Because if you go into the game, the only graphical settings you could change was like brightness and contrast, which is not really helpful if you're trying to determine whether an option is causing you problems, right? So for me, it's kind of a backward step, because in The Witcher 1, I believe you could turn the settings on and off within the game itself. I could be wrong there. It's been a while since I played The Witcher 1, but The Witcher 2, I know for a fact that the only options in there were basically brightness and contrast, which is not helpful, because if I have to close the game, load it up, close the game, load it up, close the game, load it up just to change settings, like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Like, that's the most stupidest thing ever. Like, sure, if I change the settings in the game and then I have to restart it to see if they work, fine, I understand that. But if I have to restart it every time I turn one of those settings off or something, anyway. But yeah, what do you think about these system specs? Do you think that the recommended are reasonable? I personally do, because it's not asking for like overly ridiculous specs. Like, some of you might say that the GTX 770 or GTX R9 290 are unreasonable for recommended specs. Well, it depends on how you look at it, because if you look at The Witcher 3 as an open world RPG that actually looks good, then, you know, that it is reasonable. But if the game is going to have some blurry textures or some hiccups here and there, then I would say that this wouldn't be reasonable. But if the game runs okay, it looks good, then I wouldn't have any issues with it. But the fact that these are recommended, I don't know, because it's asking for an i7. I'm kind of worried about my own performance right now, because I don't have an i7. And I have a Sandy Bridge CPU. So I don't really understand at this point. But hopefully the game does run good, and they add the graphical options within the game itself. Now, they don't say what settings you'll be able to run the game at with minimum or even recommended, but you know, I think that developers should start doing that sort of thing, because it would determine, or it would be better for me or most other PC gamers anyway, that would look at this and go, okay, I'm around these system specs, but can I run the game at above 60 frames per second at around 1080p? I think that is a good idea, where the developers themselves should be able to show you what settings that you'll be able to run at. But at the same time, I believe that the developers don't want to do that, because they kind of want you to wait until it's close to the release to actually reveal what settings are actually in the game. Or wait until launch. You know, some developers are like that. But yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. My name is Rampage. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. If you want to check out my gaming channel, the link to that will be on the screen somewhere or in the description. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.